have seen him.
Seen who?
I have seen the Lord.
What are you talking about, Mary? Did God appear to you?
Well, yes and no. I saw Jesus.
Oh, I know what you mean. Sometimes I think I see him too. It feels like he's still here with us. I keep thinking he's going to walk through that door. It's okay, Mary. Jesus will never die as long as we keep him in our hearts.
No, I mean he is really alive. The tomb was empty. You saw it, both of you.
Yes, Mary, but just because the body is missing doesn't mean he is alive. Someone may have moved it. It was a borrowed tomb, remember? Maybe we went to the wrong tomb. I don't know. But it doesn't matter. Finding Jesus' body doesn't matter as long as we continue to believe in Jesus and follow him.
Who wants to follow a dead Messiah? The Messiah is supposed to bring, the Messiah is supposed to confront injustice, not die from it. The Messiah is supposed to bring God's righteousness and peace to the world. Jesus can't be the Messiah if he's dead.
That's what I'm saying. He is not dead. He is alive. Jesus isn't just a memory in our hearts. He is alive, walking around in the world as we speak.
Then where is he? How come he hasn't appeared to us? Why did he appear only to you?
Maybe because I was there to see him die, unlike some people who ran away. I was there to see him buried. You were too busy hiding.
I was hiding because there's people out there trying to kill us. And they still are. That's why Jesus can't be the Messiah. If the Messiah came, do you think Pilate would still be walking around nailing innocent people to a cross? If the Messiah came, do you think there'd still be children in the world dying of malnutrition while the rich live in luxury? Jesus was supposed to do something about that. When he fed the hungry and healed the sick and threw the money changers out of the temple, I thought, well, at last, here's somebody who'll do something about the mess in the world. I guess I was wrong. The poor are still poor. The tyrants still rule. And Jesus is dead.
Of course there is still evil in the world. And poor people. Jesus told us there always would be, remember? He said, the poor you will always have with you. But as long as we keep him in our hearts, it doesn't matter. With Jesus, we can have peace no matter what happens in the world.
So you don't care about what happens in the world. Well, I do.
Listen to me, both of you. You still don't get it. The world has changed. Pilate has lost. Evil powers have been defeated. Jesus is alive. Peter, you say you won't follow a dead Messiah, but what if he's not dead? What if he's not finished working in the world? And John, you say that we can have peace in our hearts no matter what happens in the world. But what if God is not satisfied with that? What if God is determined to transform human bodily life and proved it by raising Jesus' body from the dead?
So you're saying that Jesus doesn't just live in our hearts, that he's alive in the world. Well, if that's true, where is he? Why didn't you bring him?
I tried to. I tried to put my arms around him. I tried to hold on and not let go. But I couldn't.
Oh, so he's a spirit.
No. He had a body and it was his body. I saw the nail prints in his hands. The tomb was empty, remember?
So was he like Lazarus? I mean, did he come out of the tomb wrapped in his burial cloths? Was he a resuscitated corpse?
No. He had a body. It was a transformed body. How can I explain this? Okay, when Lazarus came out of the tomb, he still had his old body. And we all knew that one day he would die again. But with Jesus, it was different. He had a real body. I mean, if I had given him a piece of bread, he could have eaten it. But it was different. It was like he had a body body that would never die again. It was like he had a body that would never again suffer hunger or suffering or injustice. It was like the kingdom of God had risen in him.
The kingdom of God? You mean the kingdom where death and suffering will be no more and God wipes every tear from our eyes?
Yes, Jesus' body embodied that kingdom.
Well, that's great for Jesus, but what about the rest of us? When's the kingdom of God going to come to us?
Remember the parable he told? That the kingdom of God was like a mustard seed. When a mustard seed falls to the ground, it is so small you can hardly find it. But it is there. And one day it will grow into a great bush. Or he said the kingdom of God is like yeast in bread dough. When you mix yeast in bread dough, at first, you don't even know it's there. But it is growing, fermenting, gradually reshaping the whole lump of dough. That is what Jesus' resurrection is like.
You're not talking about a personal spiritual experience. You're talking about the beginning of a new creation.
Exactly. Maybe that's why it happened on Sunday, the first day of the week. Jesus' resurrection was like the beginning of a new creation, where death and suffering will be no more, and God will wipe every tear from our eyes, just as Jesus did mine.
But that still doesn't explain why Jesus died. If God could raise Jesus from the dead, why didn't God keep him from dying in the first place?
Maybe his death was somehow for us. Remember what he said at the Last Supper. This bread is my body given for you. This cup is the new covenant in my blood, poured out for you. I didn't think about it at the time, but I think Jesus was trying to tell us what was going to happen in advance. He was warning us of his death and trying to help us understand it.
You know, Jesus died on the day that the Passover lambs were sacrificed. Is that what he meant? That his blood was poured out to set us free?
This is all still just religious talk. I mean, what about the evil in the world? What about the Pilates of this world and the Herods and the children dying of malnutrition? What did Jesus' death do for them?
Nothing. Unless he rose from the dead. Don't you see, Peter? Jesus' death exposed evil for what it is. Every tyrant in the history of the world has claimed to be acting on the good of his people. Everyone who does evil claims to be doing it for our good. But when the most righteous person was executed by those evil powers, they were exposed. They were shown to be lying. They were shown to be acting in their own interests, not ours.
We already knew that.
But then he rose from the dead. He not only exposed evil, he triumphed over it. He showed just how evil sin is, and then he showed us the power he had to triumph.
But how can we experience that if we can't see him?
By following him just as we've always done. By participating in his work of feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, housing the homeless, caring for the sick. By telling other people that Jesus is Lord and we need not fear anything or anyone else.
I don't know. You say Jesus is alive, but it all still seems so hopeless. I mean, what's the point of feeding one hungry child when there are thousands of others that are starving? What's the point of confronting one unjust ruler when there are plenty of others to take his place?
Because Jesus is alive, Peter. The tomb is empty. And that means that one day the whole world will experience his reign. Tyrants will be thrown down. The poor will be lifted up. The sick will be healed. Evil powers will be defeated. And the whole world will become the place that God meant for it to be. It will be a new creation.
That would be a lot easier to believe if we could see him. Do you think he'll ever appear to us like he did to you?
Maybe we have to believe in him even if we can't see him.
You know, I don't know if we'll see him or not. That he is not ours to control, but I know that he's not finished with us or with the world.
So, believing in Jesus doesn't just mean that we feel him in our hearts. It means that he is doing things in the world even if we can't see him.
Yes, John. And when we feed the hungry, it's like his mustard seed putting out a shoot. When we share his word and his love, it's like yeast fermenting the bread dough. Jesus is alive in our hearts. You are right about that. But he's also alive in the world. That's what I saw today. Death cannot hold him. Injustice cannot stop him. Evil powers can't defeat him. And I know that one day the world will see him reigning over this world that he came to give us.
You may not be able to prove that, but that is something worth believing.